or is it 2 days?
I said, so what time are you going to be there? 3:45? She's like, no, we're going to be there by 3:30. I'm like, all right, I'll see you later. I'm not going with you tonight.
Well, I said, I'm like, well, there's always a lot of elements for the thing, so I wanted to make sure that we have plenty of time.
Peyton and Phoebe are, they're doing both parts of the Old King and the Holly King.
Nice. I like it.
I think you at least to be kings.
There you go. You will
Welcome once again to this gathering where we celebrate the shortest day, the year ending, and the returning of the light.
We pause as the path of the sun reverses, seemingly holding its place for a moment of turning. Let us delve into the gifts of darkness at the winter solstice. We follow curiosity and contemplation down into the cold earth, taking a journey to the world below the surface. Here we find acorns hidden by squirrels and chipmunks, perhaps to be food laid in store, or perhaps to become trees in the fullness of time. We find the burrows of hibernating animals, those who sleep and repair. We find seeds, including some that will not sprout until they first wait through frost and ice. Life finds rest and renewal in the darkness.
We too can find rest and renewal in the darkness. May those who are weary find comfort. May those who are struggling find meaning and companionship. May those who are injured or ill find recovery. May those who hunger find abundance. Let this be a time of healing, and may the dreams of the dark lead us to share these gifts with one another.
Our imagination rises back to the surface, to life where the cold ground meets the crisp air. Here we observe life finding its way. We observe animals eating seeds left on the ground, though the harvest is long past. We notice the migration of birds, natural movement that allows populations to find places where they can thrive. We observe the trees that appear to sleep and yet hold sap that will rise again before the spring arrives. We observe that not everything lives through the winter, and yet all that has lived returns to the earth and is transformed.
Let this be a time of resilience. May the changing seasons bring new meaning and new insights. May creativity and persistence lead us to find resources for all to share. May those who migrate find safety, and may there be good news in the wind. May transformation lead us onward.
We now lift our imagination to the sky, to the returning sun, and to the brilliant winter night. Shifting hours of light and darkness remind us that change is part of the rhythm of the universe, and so trouble does not last. Acknowledging the gifts of darkness, we also look forward to the growing light, a change that brings glimmers of hope. We marvel at the beauty of this time. Stars unobstructed by leaves, jewels of the night shining over the land, moon and meteors inspiring us to awe and wonder.
Let this be a time of celebration. What joy can be found? Let us hold it close. Blow on its embers and share its spark. We do not take for granted having come this far, and we give thanks for our companions on the journey. Welcome Yule, welcome all, welcome light. And we invite you to rise now in all the ways we do and join us in the calling in of the spirits.
Please turn to the brightening east. Spirit of the east, home of the rising sun, we welcome you into our circle this night. We feel the embrace of spring winds stirring our minds. We hear the soft rustle of air through leaves. We feel life renewing itself again and again. Here, knowledge is born on light, swift wings. We kindle this fire today in the east and invoke the spirit of air. Flow within us, wind of life. Let there be truth and knowledge. Spirit of the air, be with us tonight.
Please turn to the blazing south. Spirit of the south, spirit of the noonday sun, we welcome you into our circle this night. We feel the blast of summer wind igniting passion. We hear the sharp crackle of dancing flames. Here transformation reigns. Here cleansing fires temper and renew. The sun at the noon of his majesty illuminates the world and ignites the spark of life within us all. We kindle this fire today in the south and invoke the spirit of fire. Flow within us, O flame of life. Let there be passion and inspiration. Spirit of fire, be with us tonight.
Please turn to the watery west. Spirit of the west, spirit of failing light of the setting sun, we feel the caress of autumn wind awakening dreams. We hear the ebbing and flowing of the sea. Here, intuition reigns. Here, emotion flickers in the depths of the dark springs. The well fills with the waters of the bosom of the earth. The cup overflows with deep wisdom. We kindle this fire today in the west and invoke the spirit of water. Flow within us, O well of life. Let there be wisdom and intuition. Spirits of the water, be with us tonight.
Please turn to the frozen north. Spirit of the north, spirit of the star-strewn midnight sky, we feel the bite of winter wind chilling heart and bone. We hear the crunch of snow beneath our feet. Here winter grasps the land. Here darkness reigns. Dreams are born and nurtured. The seeds of peace are sown. The visions of a new world are nourished. We kindle this fire today in the north and invoke the spirit of earth. Grow within us, O tree of life. Let there be strength and courage. Spirit of the earth, be with us tonight.
And now, you can face forward again. We will light our chalice, symbolizing our center. Please join together. And so here are the words for the lighting of our chalice. The longest night has come once more. The light has set, the darkness fallen. The trees are bare, the earth asleep, and the skies are cold and black. Yet tonight we rejoice in this longest night, embracing the darkness that enfolds us. We welcome the night and all that it holds as the light of the stars shines down.
Please join me in singing hymn number 1067, Mother Earth, Beloved Garden. Mother Earth, beloved garden, living treasure underfoot. All our days you ground our being, sage and thistle, grass and root. Herbs to heal us, plants to feed us, lands to till and tend and plow. With the pendant leap and midnight north, we ask you be here now. Father, ere your inspiration holds to blade as sharp as morning. East, we ask you, be here now. Brother fire, great transformer, share the passion of the sun. In our hearts your warmth revives us, cooks and foods and heats our home. Flaming candle blood within us, blazing desert will to grow. With the one directing power, south we ask you, be here now. Sister water ever flowing, ocean, river, pond and rain, drink we now and quench our thirst and cleanse us, we begin again. Mist and ice of hosts of changes, all that courage will allow. With the cup, the holy chalice, west we ask you, be here now. Lover, spirit, intuition, in the center of our souls. In your love we find relation, all connected we are whole. Timeless mystery, quiet conscience, deepest values voice inside. With the drum and with the cauldron, this we ask you, be our guide.
So I want to tell you this story. And I like when I tell a story to tell you where it comes from, because you ought to have some sense of whose story it is. But this is a story that belongs to many different people, because there are several different indigenous nations of this continent that have a story that's something like this. Something about Coyote stealing fire for the benefit of others. Exactly, the details vary from story to story. Among the ones that I have seen, sometimes they're very similar and sometimes they're very different. So this is the way that I am going to tell you this story tonight. Once, when the earth was new and people were very young still, it got very dark and very cold. And the people had very little to eat, and they shivered, and they were afraid. And Coyote, who has a good pelt of fur and keen eyes, and isn't afraid of the dark very much, didn't have much to worry for himself, but he worried about the people. And so he thought to himself, I should do something. He knew that way up at the top of the mountain, there was a house. And in that house, there lived the fire spirits. And the fire spirits kept a fire burning just outside of the door of the house, burning all the time. It never went out. They made sure of it. But they also made sure that no one else could come sit by their fire or take a little bit of it away for themselves. So Coyote thought, what if I could find a way to get some fire and give it to the people? Wouldn't that help to solve the problem of how dark and how cold it is? But he didn't know how to do it. So he consulted his sisters. Now his sisters, you have to understand, were not other coyotes. This was when the world was young. The rules were different then. His sisters were 3 huckleberries that lived inside of his stomach. I am not making any of this up, folks. 3 huckleberries, his sisters, who lived inside of his stomach, and they were very wise, and so he said to his sisters, tell me how I can get this fire. And they said, we could tell you how to get that fire, but you always take credit for our ideas. They were right about that. And he knew that his sisters were afraid of hailstorms. So he thought to himself, all right, I know what to do. Come on, sky, start sending down the hail. And they got a little worried inside of his stomach for some reason. And they said, all right, we'll give you a plan. And they gave him a plan. And he said to himself, yes, that was what I was going to do the whole time. They don't come up again in the story, folks. All three sisters, totally cut out. Anyway, so he went to see some other animals to get some help. He got squirrel, and he got chipmunk, and he got frog, and he wasn't discriminating between animal and vegetable even, so he got wood to help him out as well. And he set them up at different places along the mountain. But he reserved the last spot up near the top for himself, and he waited, watching that fire. And every once in a while, one of the fire spirits would come, would finish its turn sitting by the fire, tending the fire. It would go to the door of the house, and it would call out for one of its sisters to come and take over watching the fire. He thought, that's it. When they change guards, that's when I'm going to do it. It's a very good time for if you have any sort of, bank robbery planned, changing of the guards, that's the time to do it, just so you know. So, he waited, and when the fire spirit went to the door, he dashed forward, and he plucked up a burning branch out of the fire, and he started running down the mountain as fast as he could, because he knew those fire spirits were real fast runners, and they were right behind him. And he ran, and he ran, and he ran, and he got just to where Squirrel was, and he threw the branch to Squirrel, and two things happened. First of all, one of the fire spirits got a hold of his tail, and it turned white. And that's why coyotes' tails are always white, from then until today. And when he threw that branch, the burning branch, to the squirrel didn't quite catch it. I mean, it's a big branch, it's a little squirrel, what do you want? And the branch hit the tail of the squirrel, and that's why the squirrel's tail is all bent up like that. So the squirrel was running real fast, trying to carry this big branch all the way down to where Chipmunk was waiting, and it managed to get there, but Chipmunk was a little bit afraid, sort of pulling his signature move, just kind of freezing in place. And so it got hold of the branch, it started running, but it waited just long enough that one of the fire spirits slashed down the back of it with its claws. And that's why there are 3 white stripes on the back of every chipmunk. Now, Chipmunk was hoofing it down the mountain, and finally, now, the branch is burning, right? Now, what happens to a branch when it's burning? It gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So by now, it's all the way down to the size of just a single coal. And so Chipmunk tossed the coal to the frog. The frog took it in its mouth, because what else is the frog going to do? And started hippity-hopping down the mountain. Now, it was almost to the next relay point when one of the fire spirits reached out and grabbed a hold of Frog's tail, which is why frogs don't have tails anymore. And the frog jumped over a river and spat out the coal, and it landed on wood. And wood wasn't a very good runner, but wood wasn't going to give that fire up for anything. The fire spirits tried a lot of things. They tried hacking at it with knives, they tried pleating at it, they tried doing dances for it, they did a lot of things, but wood wouldn't let go of the fire. But wood wouldn't let go of the fire. There was no way to get it back out of the wood. And so the fire spirits gave up and went home. But Coyote thought to himself, all right, I think I know what to do. So he got all the people around, and he took some of wood, he took 2 sticks, and he rubbed them together, just like this, and he showed the people how to do it. And he put in a little bit of moss and a little bit of dried leaves, and eventually the fire came back out of the wood. And in this way, human beings learned how to keep themselves warm when it's cold, and how to make light when it's dark. And the people were less afraid.
And now we invite Peyton and Phoebe Yancey to come forward to tell us our traditional tale of the Oak King and the Holly King.
A few technical difficulties. The story is told that in the beginning there were two gods who were brothers. And like brothers, they struggled with each other for ascendance and power. One brother was the king of the forces of life and light and warmth. He wore a crown made of green oak branches and brought with him all growth and vitality, fertility and abundance. He was called the Oak King.
His brother was the king of the forces of death, cold, and darkness. He wore a crown made of the prickly holly branches and brought with him all withering and decay, stillness, and hibernation. He was called the Holly King.
The brothers were identical in strength, and so year after year, the same pattern was repeated. Each year, the Oak King would grow strong and mighty, and during his time of dominance, the light would gradually increase, bringing with it warmth and abundance. But each year, at the height of his power, he would be thrown down by the Holly King. In the wake of the Holly King's victory, the light would gradually wane, and as it did, cold would come and the land would go dormant. But at the height of the Holly King's power, he would be challenged again by the Oak King and would fall. And the cycle would repeat again and again and again.
Alone, the brothers were equals, but soon there came a race of beings known as people. The people watched the cycle, and pretty soon they began to take sides. The people loved light and warmth, and they feared darkness and cold. And so each year, they would celebrate the victory of the Oak King, but they would mourn the victory of the Holly King. When the two struggled with each other, the people would lend the strength of their voices and their bodies, their mind, and their spirits to the Oak King, but the Holly King was without their support. And so time went by. Over time, the people's adoration of warmth and light only grew, and so they began to invent ever new ways to find light in the darkness and warmth in the cold. And finally, if they wished it, they could spend all of their time in the light and they had created. And they could be warm all year long. But their efforts to stay always in the light and the warmth were not without consequences.
Generations passed and generations again, and the people did not at first notice the shifts in the balance. But finally, they could ignore it no longer. The people began to notice that darkness was disappearing from the land, driven out by millions of lights that people had created. Animals, birds, plants, even people began to suffer the effects of light unbalanced by darkness. But it was not just darkness that was disappearing. Cold began to flee too. The whole world began to get warmer. Sun began sooner and lasted longer. Ice that had been frozen far longer than the longest memory of the oldest person in the land began to melt. Migrating birds and animals began to be confused about when to begin their migration. Plants found themselves rooted in climates that no longer supplied their needs. The air was changing. and the winds that had brought rain and taken it away again began to flow in unexpected directions, causing drought here and flood there.
The people began to see that their support of warmth and light over cold and darkness had altered the balance of the whole world. They began slowly, one at a time, to realize that the Holly King was dying. And for the first time, this thought filled them with fear. What would happen if the balance continued to be destroyed? Could they even survive in a world without the Holly King?
And in the world of gods, the Oak King realized it too. And though they had been competitors all these many centuries, he also realized that he loved his brother deeply and could not live without him. The longest night came, and the Oak King and Holly King met again. But this time, the Oak King had no heart for fighting. He laid down his sword and spear. He came open-handed to his brother who was struggling to stay on his feet. The Oak King wrapped the Holly King in a tight embrace and promised to set aside their enmity and to help his brother heal.
On the night when he usually claimed ascendance, the Oak King realized that the world was already too warm and too light. And so he laid the great oak crown on the head of his brother, took his hand, and each supporting the other, they went out into the world to see what could be done to restore balance.
In a deep sky of onyx, winter's waking, frozen stars falling from her hands. These stars are her only lonely companions, falling, 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 falling to the sleeping lands. She follows them down in her gown of frost. She rushes by trees, and the limbs are tossed.
Wild like the horses that race through the night.
She gathers up her forces and chases the light. She chases the light away, away, away. Oh, winter, 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 send your stars and your snowflakes down to me. Oh, winter, 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 I am ready to catch them in my hands. In a deep sky of onyx, winter wanders. Snowflakes fall from her icy hands.
our next story for winter is called 10 Ways to Hear Snow. So I'm wondering, before we hear our story, if any of you have an idea of what snow sounds like. What would you say snow? Claire, what do you think snow sounds like? Quiet. Claire said quiet. What do you think? Eleanor, what do you think? She said it's really loud. Anybody else? What do you hear with the snow? Oh, I hear some whooshing. Do you hear whoosh? Dripping. Crunchy. I love it. All right, we shall see. Depends on what it hits. That is very true. If it gets in your eyes. That's a special kind of snow, isn't it? Well, when Lena woke up, everything was quiet. No cars honked. No buses chugged, no garbage trucks gulped trash across the street. Snow. Last night's blizzard was gone, leaving the city muffled and white. But today was Grape Leaf Day, when Lena would help her grandma make warok inab. Siti was losing her eyesight, and Lena loved helping her cook. The snow is so deep, her mom said. We could go with you, her dad offered. But Lena wanted to go to Siti's by herself. Stay warm, Habiti, her dad told her, so Lena bundled up. Outside, the sun on the snow was as bright white as a light bulb. Lena squinched her eyes and pulled her scarf over her nose. She could barely see. I wonder if this is how Siti feels, Lena thought. The world sounded softer, but the noises she heard were clearer.
Scrape, 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 scrape.
What was that? What is it? Can you tell from the picture? It was Mrs. Watson's shovel digging out the sidewalk. Well, that's one way to hear snow, Lena thought. She walked down the street.
Sniak, sniak, sniak.
The noise was low to the ground. What was that? It was the treads of Lena's boots crunching snow into tiny waffles. 2 ways to hear snow. Lena ducked under a pine tree.
Poomph.
A powdery sound. A blue jay on a branch had knocked down snow. 3 ways to hear snow, Lena counted, and she listened for more.
Swish, 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 swish.
What was that? It was a soft, whiskery noise. People were sweeping snow off of their cars. Their brushes made the 4th way to hear snow. Lena cut across the park.
Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch.
Another snow noise? Lena saw long, skinny tracks by her boots. Ahead of her, people were skiing. Their skis made the 5th way to hear snow. Rashid and Mariam were building a snowman.
Pat, pat, pat.
What was that? It was Mittens smoothing a snowman's head. The gentle sound made the 6th way to hear snow. As Lena walked away, her friends whispered and laughed.
Thwomp.
Oh no. Lena ran away fast from the 7th way to hear snow. Lena reached Siti's building all out of breath. Her boots were covered with white powder.
Stomp, stomp, stomp.
Lena giggled. She was making the 8th way to hear snow. "Hello, Lena," the woman in the lobby said. "Go on in." She pointed toward Lena's grandmother's room. Lena tapped on the door. "Surprise, Siti, it's me. I came to make grape leaves with you." Lena threw her coat and her mittens on the radiator to dry. "Wonderful, the lamb and rice are ready," Siti said. "I can't wait," Lena shouted. "Let's get started." Lena rinsed the grape leaves and placed them on towels. "Put some filling in the center, roll them up, and put them in the pot," Siti instructed. "They're like little grape leaf cocoons," Lena said, looking at them piled on the plate. "Or lots of little sleeping bags," Siti said. "Ha, mine looks like a mustache." Lena held her stuffed grape leaf under her nose. Siti held hers under her nose, too. "That's good." She wrinkled up her face and said, "We look like a couple of tough guys." "Siti, did you know we had a blizzard last night?" "Of course," she said. Lena was surprised. How could her grandmother know when she couldn't see very well? Then she heard a noise.
Drip, drip.
Went the mittens. It was the sound of snow melting. 9 ways to hear snow. Suddenly, Lena understood how Siti knew. "Siti, did you hear the snow?" She smiled. "Each morning I open the window and I listen. Today, everything sounded hushed and soft. No noise is the sound that means it's snowing." "Siti, I listened too. I heard snow 9 different ways. Shovels were 1, boots were 2, the blue jay was 3. Slow down," Siti said. "I want to hear them all. But right now, shh." Siti went to the window and opened it again. Listen. Outside, the late blue afternoon was completely still. Quiet is the 10th way to hear snow. And I now invite you into a time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering, which sustains our community here and supports the work of our partners. Our gifts from this service and all other holiday services provide a great deal of the funding that runs Just Dane's eviction prevention program. Sometimes the difference between a family being on the street or staying in their home can be a little help with rent. With your help, Just Dane and Joining Forces for Families are helping people to prevent eviction and homelessness. So there's multiple ways to share your gifts. There's baskets that will be passed here in the room, and you'll see on the screen that you can donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You'll see the text to give information there as well. And we thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
I sit here and reflect on the years.
we have come together this evening to join in this celebration of darkness and light. We have come together out of the cold to fill this place with songs and stories and the warmth of people willing to share of themselves during this glorious season. Let us now join together in filling this sacred space with light and with wishes, using our own energy, our power, our hope and goodwill to encourage the sun to return to us once again.
Spirit of life, ancestor of the stars and the sun, you who embrace the vastness of space and us along with it, be with us now. Hold us in our worry, our exhaustion, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal in this time of shifting light and dark.
You whose arms open with the spinning galaxies, help us to make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach out to others in compassion. Turn us toward one another in mercy, right relationship, reconciliation.
You who have seen the rising and setting of suns, of seasons, of civilizations, remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and from our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and to repair them whenever possible. Help us understand our interdependence, our gravitational relatedness with all of the other spinning lives around us, and lead us to treat those relationships with care.
In this space filled with the people among us who shine like stars, this space filled with the sparkle of love and care, we give thanks for this moment to be together. May our senses be open to the beauty of this night, this season, our world. Blessed be.
And now, as we sing our Winter Solstice chant, we invite you to come forward, lighting solstice candles, bringing with you your hopes, your dreams, for this season of darkness and light. Please come forward now and help us fill this room with light and love and hope once again.
Children of the earth, we have come to sing to each other, sister and brother, songs of our Mother Earth. Children of the earth, autumn soon will breathe her last breath, and quick with her death bear witness to winter's birth. Children of the earth, can you feel the air getting cold as darkness take hold and sleep covers Mother Earth? Children of the earth, we have come to sit in the darkness, breathe in the silence, think of our Mother Earth.
Spirit of winter rest, help us to enjoy your peace. Remind us to pause during this season. Remind us to wish, to hope, to dream. Grant us awareness. Keep our gratitude fresh each day. May the songs in our heart be blessings and insights to us and to others. Amen. And may compassion always shine forth from the depths of our hearts.
Please rise in all the ways that we do. Here we go. Deck the halls in boughs of holly. Fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel. Fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide carol. Fa la 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 la. See the blazing mule before us. Fa la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus. Fa la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure. Fa la 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 la. While I tell of Yuletide treasure. Fa la 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 la. Cast away the old year passes. Fa la 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 la. Hail the new ye lads and lasses. Fa la la la. Sing we joyous all together. Fa la la. Heedless of the wind and weather. Fa la.
May we be grateful this night for the spirits who joined us in our circle, and we release them now. Spirit of the North, power of earth, we thank you for your gifts of growth and nurturing. We ask for your blessing on this solstice night. Spirit of the North, hail and farewell.
Spirit of the West, power of water, we thank you for your gifts of cleansing and healing. We ask for your blessing on this solstice night. Spirit of the West, hail and farewell.
Spirit of the South, power of fire, we thank you for your gifts of passion and transformation. We ask for your blessing on this solstice night. Spirit of the South, hail and farewell.
Spirit of the East, power of air, we thank you for your gifts of clarity and inspiration. We ask for your blessing on this solstice night. Spirit of the East, hail and farewell.
The circle is open, but never broken. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. On this winter's night, we wish you a season of love and light. May you hear the dreams, the hopes, the shout within you, waiting to be reborn. Blessed be. Go in peace. Please be seated for the postlude.